Chase and Status have made a monumental comeback with their Too Rough album with tons of bangers. But for those new to drum and bass, they've been actually at it for over 20 years, creating bangers. Fun fact, early in their careers, we were actually label mates on Renegade Hardware, which is a label that has released countless legendary tracks. So I thought it'd be cool to recreate their 2011 hit, No Problem, which also features the vocals of Takura. This track still continues to get plays to this day. It's one of the most double-dropped tracks in drum and bass history. Shouts out to Chase and Status for blessing this channel. And by the way, you might be wondering about my jungle shirt, which I'm wearing right now. This is a sample of a new shirt that I'll be releasing soon. Comment down below if you like this shirt. Without further ado, let's dive in. Alright, let's start with the drums. And for the drums, it's a basic two-step drum and bass beat. And I'm simply using a loop from the Teddy Killers. Honestly, I got nothing against using loops as long as it facilitates your creativity. Sometimes we want to spend time writing music as opposed to constructing sound. So here's the drum loop. And then I layered it with another breakbeat, and this time I'm using a breakbeat from DJ Crystal's Fragments pack, which has tons of funky, old school drum loops with a modern touch like this one. I just resequenced it a little bit to match the drum loop of Teddy Killers so it's more in sync. Speaking of which, DJ Crystal wanted to treat you guys to a 30% discount to his pack Fragments. Use the link or code down below to acquire this pack full of breaks and drum and bass essential sounds. Now, if you're layering with a main drum loop, you may want to remove the bottom end from any secondary loop. So I just used the EQ and shaped everything above 175 Hertz. Now let's hear the drums together. Sounds much more funkier. Now let's get right into the sub bass. I'm simply using a square wave for the sub bass, and then employing a low pass filter to remove all the high end. And then I'm using an envelope to create a bit of an attack on the bass. So look at the bass right now. It's just a stray sausage, but if we can add a bit of attack by bringing the sustain down and adjusting the decay accordingly, you get a bit of this tip. So look at this. Gives it a bit more punctuation when the bass hits. And for the bass pattern, I'm using a dotted quarter note pattern. So a regular quarter note is this length, and then extending it by 1/2 would make it a dotted quarter note. And we repeat it, only the last one is a bit shorter. So you get that kind of dancehall boom, 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 boom rhythm. So today's video is focused on some pretty basic techniques, as I wanted to reach out to the beginners in this video. And so if that's you and you're just getting started with music production, I have a few resources for you to jumpstart your learning from today's sponsor at Skillshare. The first is Jonathan Fisher's Your Guide to Drum Programming, which is an extensive video class on programming drums on Ableton. He'll go over it in MIDI and audio and then show you complex variations. It's a great place to get started. Then if you want to get deeper with Ableton, take Brian Jackson's Ableton Live, The First Steps of Digital Music Production, which is an extensive series which will show you everything you need to know about Ableton. Skillshare now has a curated series of learning paths, which are sequential classes to help you master a skill or technique. Ones that you might be interested, maybe take your music production craft to the next level, which is a learning path for beginners in music production, which contains 4 classes. By the end of the series, you'll be able to make a track from start to finish. There's also Learn the Fundamentals of Music Production, where you'll learn how to craft music from idea to arrangement. And once you learn the software, you'll need some music theory. And I really like Mike Barnes' music theory for songwriters, from beginner to producer. He simplifies music theory, targeting the electronic music producer. For those that don't know, Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes to expand on your creativity and passion. The first 500 people that use my link down in the description will receive 1 month free trial on Skillshare. Alright, I'll see you in my class on Skillshare. All right, now down to the part that we're all waiting for, that famous rave lead. And to create that rave lead, it's simply a sample from Prodigy's Charlie. If you don't remember that track or you're too young to know that track, look it up. Otherwise, the sample is this. Shouts out to Prodigy, for which the source comes from. Simply what I've done is I pulled that sample right into Ableton Sampler, and I'm only playing this yellow part of the sample. So it's a nice stab. You might want to use a high pass and remove some of the bottom end, because we have a sub bass already. And then using the stab, they're playing a rhythm like this. It's a rhythm that we hear a lot in drum patterns, that da 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 da. If you slow it down and then put on a metronome, you can hear it a little more in context. So it's da 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 da, that pattern, and then you just speed it up to 172. And then they change the melody, just bring this note up here to A sharp, this one to E, and we have this. And then you just add a bit of reverb and delay, and then you have this. Sounding fresh. Finally, there's this kind of acid bass stab that plays in the background. I'm simply using Serum to play this pulse wave. It's simply a square where the pulse width is shifted over. And then using PWM as the modulator, which means pulse width modulation, we can change the shape of it like that and skew the width of it. And then using a filter, a low pass filter with a high resonance, we can create kind of acid sounds like this. So I'll bring the resonance down so you can hear it in context. So without the resonance, it's like that. But if you bring it up like this, so it's peaky, you can kind of make it sound like it's a talking bass on it. You can add a bit of drive and fatness to it as well. Right? So instead of using the LFOs or envelopes to modulate that filter cutoff, I'm modulating it right in an automation lane in Ableton, because the articulation of each note is a little bit different. So you get this wub at the beginning and then followed by 2 stab hits, right? Of course, we can add some reverb and delay on the sends. And then I'm adding a bit of overdrive for that kind of distorted sound. And then add a bit of EQ, sculpt the bottom end, and then bring up the mids. And then putting all those layers together, you have this. Now that's not all. There's still a switch up at the end of the phrase, which is an 8-bar phrase where the drum pattern changes and then there's a Reese lead. So let's move on to that. So I meant to say that the phrase is actually 16 bars, and its switch up happens at the very last 4 bars of that 16 bar section. So the drums change up. The first 2 bars of the drums are the same, and the second 2 bars has that kind of, I call it the hot stepper pattern. You may have seen it in my top drum patterns that I love using in drum and bass yet. If you haven't seen that video yet, you can check it out up here. And basically the pattern is like this. So there's an extension of that snare bit. So it's boom, ka, 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 ka. And simply mirroring that with the DJ Crystal break as well. So having those 2 layers together. All right. And finally, we have the Reese Bass. I'm using Serum. I'm using Square Wave on the oscillator B, set to -1 octave for that low bass note. And I'm turning on the low pass filter and only applying it to oscillator B. So that's the bottom end of the sound. And then I employ oscillator A for the top end. And this is +1 octave. So it's playing 2 octaves higher than the bass tone. And then increase the unison mode for that Reese sound. That just multiplies the voice of the sound to make it nice and fat. And then increase the detune to taste. Remember, this oscillator is not passing through the filter. Only B is here, which is lit up here. And then moving over to the FX section, we can turn on hyper dimension to make it nice and kind of thick. And then we can add a bit of distortion and drive to warm it up. Now notice down here on the bottom right, I've set it to mono, legato, and portamento to always, which is the glide. I've set it to 90 milliseconds. This just makes it sound funky when you move between high and low notes. As opposed to if you don't have it. It's like almost like connecting the notes with a note glide. And then the melody of the Reese is simply like this. Now I added a bit of extra processing to this Reese line to make it more fat. So I'm using the Juno 6 chorus effect before and after. And then adding OTT to bring out some of those mid and high frequencies. Okay, so I'll play the switch up for you. So that's the switch up. We also have that kind of that womp bass sound we had earlier underneath. It just has this longer note and a slower modulation this time. And that's pretty much it. All right, now that we have all the parts, let's hear the sequence in full. Oh yeah, and that's a rave. And big up to Chase & Status for making the original. Such a masterpiece. Alright, hope you enjoyed watching me recreate Chase & Status's 2011 hit, No Problem. The technique of sampling an old school record such as Prodigy's Charlie, taking a small bit of it to write your own melody is a fundamental technique in dance music production. And then using rudimentary rhythms like we used in No Problem's melody and just changing the notes to create that hook is an awesome technique. These basic yet important skills in music production can go a long way when you maximize them and master them. Comment down below and let me know what other tracks you'd like to see me recreate. And if you want to support the channel, I have a number of sample packs, preset packs, enable contests to help you along your creative journey. You can find out more down in the links below. My name is Stranger and I create music tutorials for bass music and drum and bass. If you like more of these videos, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Check this video here to watch me recreate the anthem Badadan. Then check this playlist here to learn more about arranging drum and bass. Alright, that's it guys. Until the next video, peace out.